think we're going to look back and reminisce on these times once we're forced to have to go into an office and resume our lives as normal.
Yeah, I think we're all going to miss it to some capacity, which is just crazy to think that we're going to miss a killer virus out there. But, I got to say, I think I'm grown a little accustomed to this, Jay.
I have. I don't know if I can go back to my normal life. I was barely hanging on by a thread there from a mental standpoint, and I think I've completely lost it. So I have no idea what's going to happen.
That's all right. It sounds like you're among the rest of us out there, but it will definitely be challenging, which is why we wanted to bring you some fire here, ladies and gentlemen. Jay has forbid me to say the word lit, so I'm going to use the word fire for the second week in a row. Last week we had Mr. Luis Robles on the podcast. He's our starting goalkeeper and team captain, and this week, Jay, we got the man himself. What's better than house music, Jay?
That filthy trap music.
That trap music. Will Trapp, ladies and gentlemen, will be joining the podcast today.
Yes, we are very excited. We think the listeners will really enjoy learning more about Will from none other than himself. I mean, who else to tell you a better story than the man?
Absolutely. And if you don't do so already, follow us on Instagram, Facebook at Inter Miami Podcast, or drop us an email, jandalex@intermiamipodcast.com. We love to hear from every single one of you. We released this news exclusively on our social media platforms on Friday. So if you do not follow us, be sure to do so. Go ahead, drop us DMs, emails. We love to chat with you. Pop on the App Store, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it greatly. And Jay, we had one hell of a listener spike due to Lewis last week.
We did. It was great to see. I know everyone, it's kind of interesting in time to see all this because, a lot of people listen in the office or on their way to work. So I don't know where everyone's carving out the time now, but yeah, very cool to see. Welcome everyone to the Inter Miami podcast. I am Jay Kington, not alongside because we're still quarantining, but Mr. Alex Papa George. Not a ton of news outside of the interview we wanted to bring you. I think the probably the hottest thing that came out this week was James Rodriguez has now been tied to Inter Miami. They have began some sort of discussions with Real Madrid. James, most people I think probably initially remember him from winning the Golden Boot in the 2014 World Cup with Colombia. Shortly after that, went to Real Madrid, 84 appearances, 29 goals. I don't think it was what they were really hoping for, both sides. He's been on loan with Bayern Munich over the past couple of years, 43 appearances, 14 goals. But, he's really in the prime of his career. I'm not upset with this one at all. I would still have my preference on Edison, but hey, let's add another stud midfielder or winger into our attack, and I think good things will come. He is the Colombian kid, not to be confused with the Columbus kid, Mr. Will Trapp, who we're going to get into. But one other fun little tidbit the team is doing, there is this all-in Corona relief effort that's going on right now. It's supposed to be the biggest digital campaign to raise money for it. David Beckham has now thrown his hat in the ring. He is auctioning off tickets for a unique experience, a 5-on-5 game with the winner and 4 of their friends against David and his hand-picked squad at the stadium, followed by lunch, some extracurriculars in there as well. You can go to the website, Inter Miami CF.com. You can bid there. Donations, they're like $10 for 10 entries or like $100 for 200 entries. So it's one of those things. But it would be pretty cool to get out there on the field and be able to play with David Beckham. But that's really, I think the majority of the news.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. And I think we touched on it a little bit last week, too, when David Guetta did the fundraiser at the Icon in Brickell. Anything possible to give back and donate and just do your part. The whole world is suffering right now, so that's great to see the team go ahead and collaborate and put something together that can offer, some type of relief for those people who have been affected by COVID-19. So that's great to see. And Jay, I think without further ado, man, we got to get into this interview with Will Trapp.
Yeah, let's not keep him waiting. 5 minutes has probably seemed like an hour, I'm sure. But yeah, let's go ahead and bring in Will. And we hope you guys enjoy this interview. We sure know we did.
Absolutely. Let's bring him on.
Well, everybody, we are so excited to have Mr. Will Trapp on the podcast here today. He is a fan favorite, first-time guest on the podcast. But first and foremost, Will, why don't you give the fans a little bit of an idea of, the type of player you are, the type of person you are, and, kind of your approach to the game, and just kind of, I guess, shed a little bit of light about you yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, guys, thanks for having me on. This is fun. For me, I'm a type of player that is very subtle, I guess you could say, in the way that I play and the way I try to help my teammates. It's a very passing orientated type of style of play where I'm just kind of getting players in positions to be successful. So I sit in the deep lying kind of playmaker position where I'm orchestrating the game from the back half of the team up to the front half of the team and just trying to connect and link the group. So that's really me as a player. I've always valued and loved the ball. I mean, I think it's funny, when I was a kid, my dad used to pay me 25 cents for a goal and 50 cents for an assist. So from a young age, it was very much about like, how can you provide and help your teammates? So I've always taken that to heart. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I played for Columbus Crew SC for the bulk until this past year of my professional career. Was the captain there for 3 years. So had an amazing experience in my hometown club, but was so excited to step into something new here in Miami with a great coach, with great players, and a great idea of how we want to attack this league and make something special down here in Miami. So it's been amazing for me. On top of it, I have a wife and a 6-month-old. We were just talking before. If you guys hear any background, it's probably him crying.
No, it's just Jay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
But it's been amazing. I mean, I know this time is crazy for all of us, right? But to have a little bit of a respite in the middle of our career to really spend time with family and connect with them, especially in a new city, in a new place, it's been a nice pause. Although there's nothing I'd rather do than be back on the field playing. So that's a little bit about me. It's nothing too in depth, but yeah, pretty easygoing person for the most part. That's how I roll.
Awesome. And I mean, you are basically like the Columbus kid. You spent pretty much your whole life in Columbus, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah,
They play that narrative up pretty hard.
Yeah. What was it like finding out you were, coming down to Miami? What was that transition away from the home you've known your whole life into a kind of a new adventure?
Sure. Well, I think I had desire to change, to be honest. My wife and I, we just felt like, okay, we've been here in Columbus for a long time, and at some point in your career, I think you want to experience something different. And for me, I certainly did. And I was actually in preseason with Columbus, and then I found out it was a very quick process, guys. It's crazy, actually, how quickly it can all turn around. But found out Miami was interested, and actually I know Paul McDonough quite well he was my first agent when I signed with in MLS, and knowing his track record at Atlanta, all those sorts of things really made this a situation and a place that I was very excited to step into. And then honestly, you never know with an expansion team. And then when I set foot, from the first moment I set foot in the club and meeting guys, it's been just top class. I mean, it really, really has. And it just kind of validates your decision making, right? Because you don't know. And then you hope things will go well. And then ultimately, when you meet the people and you're in the environment, you start to realize, okay, God put me here for a reason, and this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, and I mean, this is really the first expansion team you've been a part of, unless you've been kind of moonlighting, helping other expansion teams out. But, what excites you about that process of coming in and building something brand new with a whole new team, whole new staff, coaches, all that good stuff?
Yeah, it's the history of it, right? Like, we're writing the history. This podcast, for example, like the first game in LA, the game in DC, like every moment we're together, every moment we're doing something with the club is history in the making. And I think it's a great challenge and it's an exciting opportunity to build the ethos of the club, right? Like, we get the opportunity as players and as the staff to say, this is who we want to be, not just now, but who we want this club to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years, all the way down the road. And I think that's That's incredible. I mean, I've never had that experience. I went into a club in Columbus, for example, that had won an MLS Cup before, had been one of the first franchises in the league. So while it's a short history, there's still history there. But this is a completely new thing, and I think it's a great opportunity. It's an exciting one for me as an individual, and then as a group too.
Yeah, and you just touched on it. You've been, homegrown player from Columbus, your entire life. You had 185 appearances there. How is the change in scenery in South Florida as, kind of the area, the geographic location been versus, kind of the player in joining a new expansion team?
Yeah, I think that's been probably just as exciting, rather. The cultural immersion that you get here in South Florida is something that I love, man. I mean, I think it's such a cool melting pot of cultures here. And that really bodes well for the sport of soccer, sport of football here. But it also creates challenges too, right? Because you have diversity of backgrounds, diversity of nationalities, diversity of ethnicities. And we as a club are trying to bring them together to support us, right? But for me, like growing up in pretty much white bread America, it's been incredible to step into something that's outside your comfort zone. And that's where you grow the most. Whether it's at training when Diego's speaking only Spanish and I have to draw upon my years of school in Spanish or my teammates in Spanish that I've had over the course of my career. I think it's exciting because you're growing, I think the status quo of staying the same and doing the same things eventually gets old. Right. And South Florida's been great to us so far. It's hot. It's certainly hot as hell, but it's been really, really great.
Yeah, I think you're still in tune for your first summer down here too. It gets a little bit hotter, I'll be honest.
But this is uncharacteristic, right? Like right now we're at it shouldn't be this hot in March, April, correct? That's what.
No, it's actually pretty cool right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit cooler than typical, I'd say.
Oh wow. Okay.
We'll do another pod. We'll do a pod in July, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah. And I honestly think I was in the same boat you were in, in about 2007 or 8 because I'm from Louisville and I grew up there my whole life. Yeah, so not far from you at all. Then I went to Florida State and ended up basically just staying down here. And I mean, it was definitely a change, but it's something that you grow very fond of and fall in love with. So welcome. We're very excited to have you down here. And as most of us know, as most of the listeners know, we acquired you via trade with the Columbus Crew, and you just said it can happen so fast, right? Making that transition. Sure. But how did that conversation or news come to you? Were you surprised, or did you know it was coming? Kind of how did those things develop?
Yeah. So funny enough, like I was saying, I was in preseason with Columbus, and it was a situation in which, look, I had kind of told them I didn't want to be there anymore, and they had kind of reciprocated the same, simply because of it had been 7 years. It was just time, right? And no situation had come up yet that like whether a trade or a move abroad or any of those things. So I'm in preseason with Columbus until something changes. So we were in Cancun, actually. We had landed in Cancun I think I had been there 2 days. And I'd been speaking with my agent pretty much every hour. And he had broached that Miami had shown interest maybe the day before. And this was like January 30th. One of my best friends on the team back in Columbus, his close friend is AJ De La Garza. He had been speaking to AJ. AJ was saying that he had heard rumblings about my name being thrown around, vice versa. So then morning of the 31st, I wake up and it's like, hey, trade went through. You're going to Miami. I was supposed to train that morning, didn't train, packed all my stuff, turned around, was on a flight by probably 2:00 from Cancun to Sarasota, where the boys had gotten in from, I think, Port St. Lucie, maybe, where they were in preseason before Sarasota. And then, train the next day, first training, and hit the ground running, bro. But it's something where you take it as it comes. And like I said earlier, like God he puts the right situation in front of you. And I had been praying a lot about, okay, what's the change that's going to come? And you're trying to figure out what the plan is supposed to be. And ultimately, like, you just kind of roll with what happens. And like I said, I couldn't be happier about knowing a little bit about the club, because obviously it's an expansion club, but knowing about the bones of the infrastructure with Paul being here, knowing guys like AJ and Luis and Roman, Lee, these are people that I've respected throughout the league and know that they're not just like your average players that are stepping into something. So I think that was something that also excited me and energized me. And then getting to know Diego and his staff very quickly as well. I consulted with Greg Berhalter, who's my coach in Columbus now with the national team. And I was like, hey, Greg, like, what do you know about Diego? What do you know about his style? And he goes, honestly, you will fit in very, very well with how he wants to play. And for me, that was probably the biggest selling point on it, because here's someone in Greg that I respect immensely, that knows me very well. And if he's kind of giving his blessing, so to speak, then I was obviously going to put a lot of weight into what he had to say. So that was another part for me that it all came together in the right, perfect way for me.
Yeah, and you actually just touched on it, and you have international experience, which on the U.S. team, it's a little bit something that the team doesn't yet bring to the table that you do. I mean, you've been playing in, U14, under 15, even all the way back to your middle teens, and you kind of built this all the way up to present time. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about the major differences and experiences you see in that international play and how the international game may change from the game of MLS?
Yeah, it's a great point. So I think naturally you have to look at the difference of what is a club format versus an international format, right? Like in your club, you're with these guys every day. You're at training, you're hanging out outside the field. Like you can work on things over a longer period of time. And then as soon as you have an international window, it's 10 days. And pardon my French, so to speak, but it's balls to the wall. I mean, you're just going for it and you're figuring it out, and you're hoping guys are fit. You're hoping guys are in form, all those sorts of things. So for me, I think the adjustment going to that level is realizing that there's no breaks, right? Like it's just go. And you always have to try to perform at your best, and the pressure's higher, and it's maybe not as tactical at times as you would have with your club environment, because you don't have the time to really work on things as detailed as you'd probably hope and want. But it's so exciting because you get to step out, A, for your country, which is probably the greatest honor you can have, right? Mm-hmm. And then B, you're playing against, in many cases, world-class players that you've watched on TV, you've admired, whatever it may be. And you want to be pushing yourself and testing yourself against the best players. And I think it's fun. A fun example is looking at a guy like Rodolfo here in Miami, right? Like playing against him, seeing him for Mexico, and then getting to know him as a person now as a teammate. I think it's fun when you have those gaps that are bridged with this sport, and it's amazing. But the international game it's a different level for sure, but it's one that can bring so much pride to not only your country, but to you as an individual. And I've seen with family and those extensions of people that maybe aren't a casual soccer fan. They watch Team USA games. They watch USMNT games. They do that, and that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on it. I mean, international play has such a short window to develop not just team camaraderie, but, actually get together a strategy to go out and win some games. Do you feel that has prepared you almost for joining an expansion team where, you are forced in that situation? And like you said, joining the team over in Port St. Lucie, and you kind of had to adapt really quickly. Did you feel that almost prepared you more for that moment?
I think so. I think the versatility that comes with a career at the international level or games at the international level helps you realize, okay, it's not going to be perfect, right? Like you have to adapt, and those that adapt best become the most successful. And I think those experiences have helped me kind of wrap my brain around that, because nothing's just going to be catered to you. You wish it was easy, but at the same time, it's meant to be difficult. It's meant to be hard. And I think I tried to draw upon those experiences as much as I could, as well as just honestly, man, connecting with the guys that you meet first when you show up, guys that guys that you don't know, and just trying to immerse yourself in the culture of the group that you're observing around yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be awesome to be able to come in and create something with, many of the veterans on this team, they're friends of yours, and then coming in, kind of that creating like this picture perfect setup for you must be awesome. But in the same breath, you're a veteran yourself. And there are younger players on this team who are new to the league. And there are even some players who are a little bit older, but, haven't really played in the MLS. So in what ways do you prepare and kind of approach being in a mentor role, both to, the younger guys and maybe some of the older individuals who are just new to the MLS?
Sure. I think for me, my style in that regard, and I guess a mentor leadership role, is really more from example. I mean, I do talk a lot, but I'm a little quieter when it comes to the locker room and like being a loud voice and joking around, that type of stuff. I like to do my talking on the field, so to speak, of, hey, if there's a young guy that's similar position or we connect in our spots on the field, like a center back to me, for example, we pass the ball to each other quite a bit. So understanding, okay, this guy is new to the league. He hasn't maybe seen this striker that I know we're going to be playing against. And it's just grabbing him in the couple trainings before a game and saying, hey, he's super physical. He likes to hang on the line. Like, just look for this. Here's how we can solve it. And I really tried to look at it that way of how can I communicate about soccer, communicate about football in a way that builds the relationship on the field. But then also will be someone that now, if we have that relationship on the field, he can look at me off the field and bridge those gaps. Maybe if we don't even speak the same language, you know what I mean? It's the great equalizer is our sport, and how we can maybe not communicate effectively via the same language, but we still understand each other and can be productive. And ultimately, with a new group, that's the biggest thing. You want to build relationships. You want to build continuity and chemistry. And I think we've done a really good job of that. I think we've done a really good job of having the right pieces in place of guys that are diverse in how they lead and how they can help and be wisdom for the younger, newer guys to the league.
Yeah, I mean, and football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, it's the universal language. So that definitely rings true. In regards to communicating, in practice or on the field, obviously we know a lot of the players come from different backgrounds. So there's kind of that Spanish and then English side to it. Are there just a lot of interpreters around the field, translators around the field, or, how's that process kind of roll out?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was curious of how it was going to work. And Diego is actually, he's worked immensely at his English, and it's coming along quite well, to be honest. So he'll do
nice.
Yeah, majority of it is in Spanish, but he does his best in English as well to try to communicate, because he wants to learn too. I mean, you won't meet a more competitive person, to be honest. So he speaks in Spanish. He'll try a little bit in English, but then we also have one of his assistant coaches translates everything into English. And then you have guys that are bilingual on the team as well. A guy like Victor Ulloa is a huge crutch for a lot of us of, okay, what did he say? You know what I mean? Like in specifics. But I also think, like you said, so much of our sport can be translated honestly through body language and through movements of, like, it doesn't matter if it's English, Spanish, whatever. You can see, okay, Diego wants me to do this because he's motioning this way, and there's intensity in his voice, or it's softer, and you know what I mean? The subtlety of things, and the beauty of body language, I think it plays out almost on a daily basis for us. But like I touched on earlier, it's something that I think is a fun challenge. And I've always wanted to become fluent in Spanish. And now I actually get to practice it and use it on a daily basis, which I think is, well, not right now, daily basis, but when we are training together, daily basis. And I think that's awesome, man.
No, it is. It's going to help you out not only with the team, but also just living down here. There's so many.
Absolutely.
Such a Spanish influence, man. You go anywhere, especially down in Miami, it will get you much further.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a question. Who has better Spanish, Will Trapp or Ben Sweat?
I don't know, Benny. I don't know Benny's Spanish.
Ben said he has some good Spanish skills.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, all I'll say is when I speak Spanish, like off the bat, people actually like they keep talking to me in Spanish because my accent is very good, so they think I'm like a native speaker, and I've had numerous people tell me that. So I don't know how Benny's doing over there, but I think I'm on a decent track here.
All right, solid. Well, Ben is a fan of the pod here, so maybe we'll have an event here on the Spanish off or a language.
a Spanish. We'll do a Spanish off. Yeah, there we go.
You can tell Jay and I's commitment to everybody else has been working on our Spanish too. I know we get a little ridiculed on that, but that's fine. My English is just as bad. But but obviously, outside, our respective quarantine zones, I feel like they are now, we're dealing with COVID. And before we get into the isolation period, take us back, 4 or 5, is it almost 6 weeks ago since the DC United, it's unbelievable, since the DC United game. And, kind of talk to us about, how well was the team gelling? How were the spirits in the locker room? Things like that. We were literally days away from our season opener here in South Florida. Can you kind of take us back to that moment and share a little bit about it?
Absolutely. I think it's fun to reminisce on it right now because we're missing it so much. I mean, look, I think we put in tons and tons of work in preseason. We had the first game in LA, which of course is going to be a difficult game against the Supporters Shield winners from a year ago. And honestly, I thought we despite losing, which we were very upset and frustrated and disappointed about, we did some things that normally an expansion team isn't as organized, isn't as intense, and I mean, didn't make it easy in any regard and had opportunities as well to tie the game, if not win the game. And I think we drew a lot of strength from that game. Stepping into DC, I think as well, you start the game extremely strong with more and more chances. We defended very well. We attacked, I thought, well with Rodolfo, Robbie, Lewis, and guys getting into forward positions in a confident and dangerous way. And then obviously, look, the red card is the red card, and it changes the complexity of the game. And that's something where you can feel bad for yourselves, or you can try to continue to push. And the unfortunate thing, I think, was we let ourselves down in our mentality in those moments. And I think with a new group, we need to continue to understand and be strong. And okay, it's 5 minutes. This is 5 minutes that change the entire game, because we go from basically 2-0 feeling really, really good to now red card, 1-1, 2-1. Now we're climbing the mountain down a man. But ironically, we were doing a film session yesterday. We do like Zoom film sessions since we can't meet in person. We do it over those platforms. And we were watching our pressing in that game against DC with 10 men, and how we were able to continue to make it so difficult on them and actually control the game, even though we were down a man. And Diego was like, I mean, talk about a competitor, but he was so excited and like honestly thrilled about like the heart of this group. And that's something that I'll say is the passion that you're going to see and that I've already felt is different than I've experienced in any of the teams I've been on before. Everything just has a different quality of, it just matters more. And I think we're coached that every play of every training and into the game. And it has to be 100%. And you start to build this love or this appreciation, or you're stretching muscles, soccer muscles, that maybe you've never exercised before. And I think for me, this group has that in spades. I mean, we have passion and heart and a desire to continue to win and improve, like no team I've been on before. And I think that's something that I know we will continue to build, and we will continue to help us in the future. On top of the fact that, like I said, we're a new group and there's tactical elements that we continue to need to improve, and we're doing that. I mean, we're sitting here 3 days a week, 4 days a week, doing Zoom calls to continue to build our model of play and our philosophy of play. I don't see that in many other clubs in terms of the stimulation that players need in this time, especially. But doing it in a way that actually makes your players want to, right? And for me, that, okay, yeah, you've lost the 2 first games of the year, and that's disappointing. Trust me, I'm not going to write that off as not disappointing. But I do want to look at it with a little bit more of an objective eye of, okay, what elements were good? What elements can we continue to build, and we'll continue to build even though we're not on the field? And I know for sure that we're doing that right now. And for me, that's huge.
Yeah, we share the same exact view as you, right? There are so many positives to take away from these first 2 games, and we're honestly a handful of just mental mistakes away from literally being, having 1 win and 1 draw, if not 2 wins. So there's definitely you can see the potential of the team, and it's good to hear that none of the players are taking it lightly, that they do realize that the 0-2 start isn't great, but that they all seem to focus on the positives and continue to grow, because we say it a lot. It's probably Alex's favorite line now is we're the best 0-2 team in the league, because we are competitive right off the bat. Coming out against
that was going to change too. Against the LA Galaxy, that was going to change.
Yeah.
100%. No, I mean, that game, honestly, the build up, like, you wouldn't have thought that we had lost 2 games in a row, like going into that week, going into the build up to that game. I mean, you could see it in our training methods and our intensity. Like, we felt confident. Who knows what's going to happen with the season, to be honest, if we even play LA Galaxy this year. But like, you could look at it objectively and say, like, look, we can improve, and we will improve, and we have the measures in place to do so. I think a lot of teams, it's like, yeah, we did good things, yeah, we did bad things, and like, we can improve, but there's no clarity of how to do that. And this is something I've been super impressed with, and I think what the fans and you guys may enjoy is the vision of the coaching staff and the step-by-step fundamental processes that have been put in place. Man, like, you can see the building, and like the cliche of Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, it's true. You have to continue to trust the process of what we're doing and add layer upon layer. And I think we're doing that, and it's only going to get better.
Agreed. 100% agree. What have your thoughts been like on the fans and the supporters, because they are so excited, so rowdy? And we asked, Luis, but what were your thoughts? Like, when you got off that bus in Los Angeles and you were greeted to mad shouting, dancing, cheering fans, popping the smokes and just greeting you guys with such energy. I mean, what's that been like, just to come down to something new, but see the support and obsession the community has with it?
I think obsession is such a good word, man. I think that's such a good word. It's what you want as a player. I don't know how to say it. Like, when you know that it matters so much to these people, to these fans, these aficionados, these just passionate people about our sport, but about our club. As a player, you take that to heart. You see this as something more than just, I'm going to go out and train today, I'm going to go out and play a game today. Like, no, this matters. And I think that adds to that passion that I was speaking about earlier. On top of it, I think what's so disappointing and it just sucks right now is the fact that who knows what's going to happen this season? Who knows what's going to happen with games? Will we play in front of fans? Will we play behind closed door? I don't know, truly. I mean, it's so much a moving target and uncertain at the moment. And for me, it's a shame if things go the way that they potentially could, worst case scenario, that we don't play games in front of fans, because we know that our strength will be derived from you guys as fans that are in the stadium having our backs, and I think I don't want that to deflate what can be done this season, what this season means. I mean, outside of COVID just kind of wrecking anything anyway. But the passion and the excitement that's kind of like swirled around the club, it's just a shame that it may not be as strong as we wanted it to be, although you never know. I mean, truly. So it's a different time, of course, right now. But when when we were all together and we had the fans there, I mean, look, it's incredible. I mean, it really is. The guys were, I mean, we're filming everything because it's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on it. I mean, COVID is here. How are you mentally, physically, spiritually handling everything going on in society? It's thrown such a wrench into everyone's day to day. You know, how are you coping with everything?
Yeah, I think you have to first look at what can you control, right? I can control my work every day. I can control a schedule that I put out because you're not going anywhere. You're just trying to be productive each day. And I think the club has done an amazing job. I touched on those Skype meet or the Zoom meetings we've had from a tactical perspective, but we also have a training program each week that comes out. We have runs. We have all these things that hold you accountable as a player. That I mean, for me, it's a necessity. You need it not only like to keep your body strong so that when we do come back, you're ready, but also it's just a great outlet for the steam of sitting inside and not really having a ton to do every day. So I really try to go out, and I do the runs early in the morning. I go at like 5:30. I'm a maniac like that, but it's actually the only time that I can beat the blazing heat and run on a turf field that's not getting kicked out by park rangers. So
yeah, right.
That's been huge. I mean, you're coping with it from a physical perspective, but the club has given us almost every resource that we would need to do so, which I've enjoyed. And then honestly, man, like I touched on, I think what's been great is just getting to spend time with family, right? It's a cliche in this time. People keep saying, oh yeah, it's great to spend time with family. But for me, 7 weeks I was gone from my wife and my son. I didn't see him for 7 weeks. And then my wife's trying to organize moving a house from Columbus down to Miami. And then she's also basically being a single parent at the same time and getting our son on a schedule, all those things. It's the outside of the game stuff that that fans don't think of or know about that really do affect us as people more than just the player. So having this time to just be together has been huge. We can establish our family again, our routines again, our just like normalcy. So I've really kind of sunk my teeth into that. And then honestly, man, like from a spiritual aspect, it's really just understanding, okay, so many people are struggling right now. So many people are in bad moments. And what can we do, even though we're behind our front door, to try to help others? So I did one of my best friends is an academy coach out in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I did a podcast with him as well. And they ended up donating money to a charity back in Columbus that we're super passionate about. So it's just finding little ways that you can try to help people, man. I think you got to get your mind off yourself in these moments and understand the bigger picture of this global event that's happening and the people that are struggling and how can you in your own way help. And I think you're seeing that all over the country, all over the world. And it's amazing.
Yeah. And, honestly, when we were speaking with Luis last week, he mentioned almost the identical thing, is that really people, the fans, really anyone that's not the player themselves, they don't understand the strain that the player's family can take, especially when you're, relocating to somewhere brand new, halfway across the nation. So, it's tough to really appreciate everything fully. You can appreciate the play, the results, but to really fully understand everything that goes on in your world, everything that you've got to deal with and manage, it's much greater than that. So it's good to hear that you're enjoying the additional time with the family and that things are kind of returning to, a level of normalcy that you were looking for.
Yeah, quasi-normal, sure.
Yeah. And now just curious question of mine. So you mentioned you go on 5:30 runs. I think Alex is one of those kind of psychopaths as well that can wake up at 4 and go run.
Every day.
You guys have quite a bit in common, but I'm much more of a sprinter. I'm not a long distance guy at all. But just curious, as far as what kind of music you got in your headphones when you're taking these runs at 5:30?
Oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna add to the psychopath in me because I don't even listen to music, dude. Like, is that bad? I
Really?
don't know.
No,
Yeah,
just taking in nature. No, okay.
yeah, I just like to kind of hear. For me, it's the breathing helps like keep a rhythm, so I keep on pace for the most part.
Hmm.
Um, and I also like honestly at 5:30 in the morning, it's pretty dark, and I like to have my wits about me and not have my headphones in where I can't hear what's around. Because you just never know. To be honest, car come in or whatever. So I like to be aware, I guess. Um,
All right.
but I did have my headphones in for some shorter distance ones the other day. What did I have on? It was just like an iTunes my purchase. I think it was like the Adele album. To be honest, it was like her 27 or something. And I was like, all right, yeah, this is kind of fire. I do like Adele.
Not afraid to admit it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's awesome. Are there, I mean, when you're not running around the neighborhood, are there any other hobbies or new things that you picked up during this quarantine time?
oh man, let me think. We like to cook, so we try to cook. And it's funny because now you go to the grocery store once every 2 weeks probably, so you use your leftovers, so you have to get creative with that. Cooking is a big one, which I don't know is a hobby, but it's something we do. What else? I have like speakers around the house, so we like my son at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. He's like starting to wind down, but he's not quite there, and it's before his evening dinner, so we do like a dance party where I'll put music on
There you
and
go.
dance with him, and he's in this little bouncer, dude, and he goes ape shit. He just loves it. Like, so it's like it's good for me. It gives mom a break. It's like
Yeah.
it's fun. I filmed a daddy dance party with the little guy a couple days ago. It's hilarious. So just little stuff like that, man. I mean, it's pretty simple, but it goes a long way of keeping your mind off of watching the news for an extended period of time, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I cannot agree more. The best thing that you really will experience moving forward as a father is the happiest moment is going to be your son's face lighting up, right? So whatever you can do to make him
Oh,
smile, that fulfills you so much. So that's
he
awesome to
could,
hear.
yeah, he could cry all day, and as soon as he gives me a smile, I'm like, "You're good,
Yeah,
dude. Whatever you
yeah,
want, whatever you
yep, yep,
want."
yep, exactly. What part of South Florida did you end up finding a place?
Yeah, so I mean, you got to think about where's this current stadium and training facility. It's in Fort Lauderdale. So for
Hmm.
us, it made more sense to be closer to your job, like where you go every day is pretty much a training facility. So proximity to that was a priority. So we found a place in Fort Lauderdale that we settled in. And honestly, on top of all the other things, like finding normalcy, but also just getting into a home and making it your home, there's always something that can distract you and take your time. And that's been a fun, I guess, I mean, fun in quotes, exercise that we've had to
Yep.
undertake of just getting things like situated and unpacked and moved in. And there's
A lot of
always
home
little
goods
things that
trips, stuff like that.
oh
The
man, I've been to
furniture.
Home Depot and Lowe's more than I would like to say. So stuff like that too. We're in Fort Lauderdale, but we're loving it, man. We're loving it.
Yeah, and you touched on it. How's your experience? I mean, I know right now we're kind of isolated and quarantined to the facility, but how's your firsthand experience of the facility? We hear nothing but tens across the board.
Yeah, I mean so it's incredible. Like if I compare it to what I had in Columbus for 8 years, you just can't compare. The gym is almost the size of the entire facility we had in Columbus. So the quality of it, the way it's laid out, I mean, it's fantastic. It really is. They've given us every opportunity to succeed, and I think as a player, it's great to see the vision of the club, but also the fact that they're going to spare no expense to try to win, and that's great.
Definitely. Now, so you've been able to at least have a few weeks of, normal living down here, but what is going to be the first thing that you're going to do once all this is over? First South Florida activity for you and the family. What's it going to be?
I mean, we're going to go to the beach, dude. Like, it's funny. You're here and you've been inside and you almost forget that the water is like 10 minutes away.
Yep, right
So
there. Yep.
we'll go to the beach. I think that's we've at times just driven past it because we're like, oh yes, there is something nice like very close to us that we just haven't been able to see. Like we've taken runs around and gone down Sunrise Boulevard or Las Olas or whatever to check it out. But yeah, go to the beach, go have a nice meal out at a restaurant, and just experience and soak up the little things culturally that we have here.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot beat just taking a stroll down A1A, whether you're in a vehicle or on foot, man. It truly is a beautiful place to live. And how has South Florida treated your family as a whole? How do
Dude,
they
it's been
feel, I
great.
guess? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, there's just headaches coming with moving and organizing all that. But once we've been settled, like I said, it's been fantastic. We've met neighbors, we've met people that have been just so accommodating, so friendly. The club, like I said, they've been incredible with helping us get situated. Yeah, man. I mean, it's been awesome. We took I think it was like a couple days after, maybe it was the Saturday where we were supposed to be playing Galaxy. We went down to like Miami Design District and walked around there. We just saw little things here and there to get a better sense of a greater scope of the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. And look, it's such a cool place with so much diversity, and we're excited to now, once this gets lifted, to experience it actually. That's been we feel like caged animals. We want to see it and we just can't at the moment.
Yeah, you got a little tease, and now you're stuck inside.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's wild. I've been living down here for about a decade now, and the best part about South Florida is just all the different things to do. It just seems like a city that's always changing, new people coming in, new events, et cetera, whether it's entertainment, food, it doesn't matter. South Florida is definitely the best place. And, I guess as we kind of draw to a close on today's podcast here, is there any messages that you really want to relay to the fans or the supporters during these strange and odd times?
Yeah. Well, first of all, guys, I think the big thing that I wanted to share is like, just stay with us. I mean, everybody is working so hard to find a way to make this season one that's memorable, and memorable in the right ways. Right. And we can't undersell how important, the fans are, how important they are to being the lifeblood of our club, being, so much a part of what we as players look toward and are excited about when we step on the field. So my message is just stay with us. Try to keep involved with the social media, keep involved with a lot of the fun things that the club are doing to engage you guys. And I think little things like this as well go a long way for people just to get to know us, even though they can't see us on the field. They might get a better sense of who Luis is and who Will is and who Jerome and Luis are, as well. And those things go a long way for people to kind of, although being apart from soccer, you still feel connected. So I can't thank you guys enough for the time today. This has been fun. And go Inter Miami, man. Let's do this. We'll get there soon.
Vamos Miami, baby.
See, claro.
Well, look, I know we've been trying to coordinate this for, it feels like, quite a while. You're very busy. So thank you so much for the time. We're very grateful. We know the fans are going to love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Will Trapp, what a pleasure to have on the podcast. But have a great day. Stay safe. Best wishes to the family as well, sir.
Same, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Will.
Well, we hoped everybody enjoyed that as much as we did. We strive to give you, even if it's 40, 50, 60 minutes, a break through your week and give you a little bit of fun and excitement, as well as, kind of just fire up those Inter Miami juices. But as you heard, that was Will Trapp, number 6 on the pitch for Inter Miami. He is our starting midfielder, a homegrown kid out of Columbus, Ohio, 185 appearances, I believe, 20 international matches. Dude's an absolute stud. I know everybody's thrilled to have him on the team here. So awesome experience, Jay. And we look forward to having the next guest on here, hopefully not too far away in the future.
We really do. And it's just been so cool to learn more about them as a person, not so much just them as a player. We really have a great set of guys on this squad, man. Everyone that we've had the privilege of speaking to, just through and through, great person. And that's awesome to see from a team standpoint. So, big thanks coming in the future for this squad. But thank you for tuning in. Again, if you don't follow us on social, at Inter Miami Podcast, Instagram and Facebook. Shoot us an email, Jay and Alex at intermiamipodcast.com, and check out the website. It's up, it's running, intermiamipodcast.com. And with that, vamos Miami.
Vamos Miami. Everybody have a safe week, and we'll get back at you soon.